Welcome to News Now Alberta. This is Special Ed. This one's a little different. It's just a video about when you have to show your ID in Canada and when you don't have to show your ID.
Hi, my name is Davin Charney. I'm a lawyer practicing in the city of Toronto in Canada, and I'm making this video for the Centre for Police Accountability, which is a group also based in Toronto. And for more information about that group, you can check out their website at c4pa.ca or follow the link below. This is the first video in a series of videos that we hope to make for the Centre for Police Accountability. The issue that I'll be discussing in this video is to answer the question of whether or not you have to show identification to the police when they ask you to do so. And generally speaking, the answer to that is no. There's no obligation on the part of people to show identification to police when asked to do so. The police, of course, can ask a person to show ID. What I'm suggesting is that a person can exercise their right to refuse. And that opinion is based on Canadian court decisions, the common law, as well as the Charter of Rights. Now, in the Charter of Rights, there's specifically two rights that I think are important that are expressly mentioned in the Charter: the right to be free from arbitrary detention, and also the right to be free from unreasonable search and seizure.
So in Canada, we split it in two rights. I know in the US, I think they both will fall under the Fourth Amendment, basically. But in Canada, it's Section 7 and Section 8 of the Charter. So learn your Charter, guys.
And although not expressly mentioned in the Charter, it's been read in by courts in Canada that we have the right to remain silent. So if you're having an interaction with police and they're asking you to provide identification, you can assert those three different rights.
So this is weird about the Charter. In the US, they have the Fifth Amendment, which is the right to remain silent and not incriminate yourself. In Canada, we do not have that in the Charter. You do not have in the Charter that you have the right to remain silent, not to incriminate yourself, but it is case law, so you can use it.
Also, there's a useful court decision coming out of a court in Alberta. And it's the case of R.V. Honorowski, and you can follow the link below to find that decision. But it specifically addresses this issue of, do you have to show ID to the police? And that court, the Alberta court, in that decision says that generally you do not have to, and it cites a previous case, a British case, Rice and Connolly. And this case of Rice and Connolly has been cited not only by that case, but by other Canadian cases to establish the principle that you don't have to generally show ID to the police. And I'll just give you a quick quote from the Rice and Connolly decision. So in that case, a judge said, "It seems quite clear to me that though every citizen has a moral duty, if you like, a social duty to assist the police, there is no legal duty to that effect. And indeed, the whole basis of the common law is that right of the individual to refuse to answer questions put to them by persons in authority."
So in Canada, you can use British case law to make your defense because we are common law, which is the same as the Britain common law. Um, but you can use British case law if you can find it. And what is basically saying is that you need reasonable grounds to ask for ID, reasonable grounds that somebody has committed a crime.
So generally, you don't have to provide identification when asked by the police. However, there are some circumstances where the law would require you to show identification. So what are those specific circumstances? Firstly, if you're engaged in a regulated activity, sometimes the regulations would suggest that you do have to show ID. So, for example, if you're crossing the border, you'll have to show ID. If you're driving, there's various provincial statutes that would require you to show identification in the form of a license. If you're in a restricted movie, you may have to show ID in order to establish you are of age to be in that movie. And similarly, if you're consuming alcohol, you may have to show ID to purchase alcohol or to be in an establishment that dispenses alcohol. You have to show ID in order to establish that you're of age.
So this is all normal. I don't have a problem with that, except the driving part. In Canada, you have zero rights when you're driving a car. You may as well leave your rights at home because they could stop you for any reason, just to make sure you have a license, just to make sure that your interior light works. They can use anything at all. You have to show your ID if you're driving a car in Canada.
So regulated activities, sometimes you will have to show identification to the police. Another exception is if the police approach you and they've found you committing some type of provincial offense, you'll have to identify yourself, or you could be charged criminally with obstruct police. So this is an important point, I think, because you don't want to be found by the police committing a provincial offense, and then if you refuse to ID yourself, all of a sudden you are charged with a criminal offense, which is much more serious. So if the police are telling you that they found you trespassing or jaywalking or committing some type of liquor offense, for example, having liquor in a public place, or you're riding your bike without a horn or a light, and the police want to give you a ticket for that, you should show identification, or the consequence of not doing that, as I mentioned, is you could be charged and convicted of obstruct police.
So this is the same law as they use in the US, refusing to ID, obstruction of police, obstruction of a peace officer, however you want to call it, ID refusal. Um, but it is also abused like it is in the US. It's a secondary charge, but cops will try to use it as a primary charge and tell you that if you don't get your ID, they will charge you with obstruct police, even if you haven't committed a crime.
And there's a Supreme Court of Canada decision, R.V. Moore. It's a 1979 decision. You can also find a link to that decision below. And in that case, Mr. Moore was riding his bike, committed some infraction. Police wanted to give him a ticket, and he refused to identify himself, and he was charged and eventually convicted of obstruct police. Now, a third scenario where you'll probably want to show identification to the police or identify yourself is if you're arrested. Now, again, if you're arrested and the police want to charge you, if you don't identify yourself, firstly, you could be further charged with obstruct police, but also you could be held in custody pending a determination of who it is you are. The police will not want to release you from custody if they don't know who you are. So in that situation, if you're arrested, you probably want to tell the police your name and your date of birth and your address in order to secure your release. Now, two very important things to remember when dealing with the police. Firstly, never lie to the police. Again, you could be charged with obstruct police for lying. So it's much better to assert your right to remain silent instead of lying to the police. Generally speaking, bad idea to lie to the police. Also, when interacting with the police, you should remain, I think it's in your best interest to remain respectful and polite, but assert your rights to the full extent. And that way, if you're respectful and politeful, you can avoid escalating the situation beyond your control. I think it's important to assert our rights. If we don't assert our rights, then there's really no point in having rights.
Totally agree with him here. If you don't use them, you lose them. We're losing rights little by little every year, every day. So use your rights. Stand up for yourself.
So, in order to assist people In asserting their right to refuse to provide identification, the Center for Police Accountability has produced these no ID cards, which, as you can see, look like a piece of identification, but they're a non piece of identification. And on the back of the card, you can see that there's some legal information that you can share with the police. And so when the police ask you, will you show me some ID, you can tell them that, well, I'll show you some no ID. And that's the point of the card. If you'd like to order these cards, you can contact the Center for Police Accountability through the website. There's a contact feature on the page, and you can send an email through that feature. So that's the end of this video. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch. I look forward to sharing information with you on other legal topics of interest in the future. And take care and goodbye.
So I don't know about you guys, but I'm totally getting one of those cards. I find that it's a good idea. The laws are in the back. The information that you want to share with the police is in the back. So in case you're nervous and you forget what they are, they'll tell you exactly why you don't have to show ID. I checked their website and everything. You basically send them a money order for whatever you think that the card is worth. So there is no fixed amount. If you think it's worth $5, then send them $5. If you think it's worth $10, then send them $10, $20, whatever you feel that the card is worth to you. And it helps this group that does amazing work in Canada. So what do you think of this? Let me know in the comments. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.